So one of the oldest stories I know of lending and borrowing is, I think so. Please forgive me for the person who told this story. My professor was there was this man who came to off the island to his main country, right? And he comes in and he sees cows, and for some reason these weird animals produce milk that he didn't know what to call back in the day. But if you one of them died, and you find out, wow, this actually produces food too. So I mean, I want to grab as much as I can, even though it's a cow. It's not land, it's not people.
Yeah.
But then other people will realize, hey, we need this stuff. And so there's this concrete mentality, like, this is my land.
Yeah.
This is mine. Cows, back on up. But the reality was like, it was never his. It was an animal that he saw that produced what he kind of liked.
Yeah.
And so now the people like it. This is mine, and the greed comes out of nowhere.
No, and I think that's a great story, because I say this. I say from a human perspective, ownership is always temporary. I say a person owns something as long as they're living, as long as it's not as long as it's not sold or stolen. And so ownership it's always temporary. It's kind of fluid in that sense. And so I kind of make the observation that it's not truly ownership, it's stewardship. And us as a people, we have, especially here in America, where it's just kind of business oriented, we've believed this idea that we are actually owners when in reality we're simply stewards. Go ahead.
So B, what do you mean by stewards?
Stewardship, and I give the example, I say, let me see if I can find it. A steward is simply one who has authority or responsibility for something. Example, a treasurer would be an example of a steward. A treasurer does not own the money, but is simply responsible for it. Likewise, men do not own the planet or its resources. They are simply responsible for it.
Yeah, like a football coach, for example. He doesn't own the players.
Yeah.
The owner does. Exactly. But at the same time, the players own themselves. So a football coach comes in, or basketball, whatever, name your sports except for golf. But you come in and he's the one who's managing the team. And that's what kind of like a steward is. I'm just going to manage the situation. X, Y, and Z money, X, Y, and Z, whatever it's going to be, fill the blank.
I'll bring it home for me in my life and just get real with it. My daughter is not in my ownership.
What do you mean? I thought you made her.
She did. She's a gift that I'm in stewardship of. She ultimately belongs to the one who has given her to me. And I don't want to get too far ahead, but I'm simply a steward of what I have been given. I don't own that. Now I am responsible for her, but I will ultimately be held accountable for what this gift that my creator has given me, because I am ultimately responsible to him, because my daughter is ultimately his. And so that's where I try to go. I don't know if you had something to add.
Now I was going to continue with it, just on a personal note. Like, as I've seen you grown since I first met you, your first responsibility was not your daughter, because that was not a concept.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was your beautiful wife.
Yeah.
And so, as men, we have to understand that we have responsibilities as steward, and we are naturally borrowers. I'm not trying to get ahead.
No.
But the reality is, like, how do I say this without getting
Go
ahead?
ahead.
All right, so like,
because we about to go there.
are we about to go there? I bet. So, when men get in marriages, let's be real, all right? We are some ugly, stupid guys.
Absolutely.
What it comes down to, we can pretty ourselves up as much as we can. We can look as fly as we can. But in reality, a girl has to make a decision to say, I think this boo's cute. I think I want to figure this guy out. But eventually, that's the process that, okay, they eventually like each other, and now the girl trusts the guy to be the man of the family, be the man of the house, to take responsibilities. And then down the road, there's more trust that's built that's saying, hey, I want to also produce a baby with you. I want to trust life with you. And so how beautiful to see that Marlena has trusted you with the life that she has, and allows you to be the leader. And then at the same time now trusts you also to have a beautiful daughter in the process too. So as a sense of commending you for being responsible for what the lender, which is the great I am, which we're about to get to, but has entrusted you, because reality, your daughter your wife are, but more are not yours.
Absolutely. And that's where I try to, hopefully you guys have followed the logical progression. This, debt, we come to the concept of a lender and a borrower. Now, how do I become the lender? I become the lender by having resources. How do I have resources? Just on a ground level, have resources, because governments have conquered other nations. Now, I understand that's the reality of the situation. Doesn't necessarily make it right, because essentially it's stealing. And I can argue that it's stealing because, as the story that you gave with the guy who has the cow,
Yeah.
it ain't his.
Never was.
It's not his.
It's not his image. It's a cow.
It's
It looks
not
like.
his.
Never mind. I can't say that company. But anyways, yeah.
It's not his. That's a perfect example, because we just simply happen to be here on the earth, and we're like, mine. It's like, it was here before you got here.
Yeah.
But yet you claim ownership over something that you didn't create.
My godson. So I joke around people saying like I have like 45 godchildren. I do it all the time because I love the concept. But my real godson, I remember looking at him, and he was on the ground, and there was a yellow toy that was in front of him. I forget what it was. Someone took it from him because they were cleaning up, about to go. Dude busted out with a cry that it echoes for eternity. But the reality, his nature is, this is mine. Why are you taking it away from me, Mom? I'm about to cry. Well, I want it back. You're not giving it to me. Let me bust out these tears. And so reality, it's in our nature that we want to go against the grain, go against the natural, like, I don't want to be a borrower. Because we're about to get deep into this, so if you're listening or you're watching, let you know we're about to go kind of turn it for a different, because as we've been talking for a little bit, we've been talking about what lender's concept is, and now we're doing kind of a shift to what it means to be a borrower.
And so that's a great point that you have brought up, and I don't know if I even made this connection, because I say if we're not owners and we're stewards, that this earth that we see does not belong to the person who conquers it. It doesn't belong to it. You're stealing.
Correct.
Essentially what it is. Who are we stewards for? And I say, the Bible says the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and all those who dwell within. And so the logical question is, why is the earth the Lord's? Like, how is it his? I continue and I say, the heavens are yours, the earth is also yours, and the world and all that is in it, for what you have founded them.
So I don't know if you're listening to this and don't realize, I mean, we're giving some logical thoughts, but we are both Christians, right? So I know your story. I don't know if you talked about it yet, but if you don't know what I was an atheist, a hardcore atheist. Growing up in Miami, Florida, didn't give a crap about life. I wanted to live everything myself. So I had this lender mentality where I want to conquer whatever I could. Because to be honest, I had an emptiness inside. So whether it was drugs, whether it was alcohol, whether it was partying, whether it was fill in the blank, sports, music, I did it to fill an emptiness that I had inside. So I took whatever I could and I just filled it, and it was still void. To the point where I realized, like, after smoking so much or doing so much dope, I was like, this will never be satisfying to me. So eventually I got saved, and I realized that this earth that was created, my life that I breathe, the heartbeats of every moment that I have are not my own. Because if you look at creation, even if you look at the theory of evolution, you backtrack every step, it's a circle. It just keeps back. It's something created something, something created something, something created something. And you do for hours and decades in life. The reality is something that was not created had to create everything.
Something had to be eternal.
Exactly. So when he reads the Bible, when Brandon was quoting the Bible, that the foundations are yours, really the reason being why is that as Christians, we believe and we trust in the Word of God as our authority. And with that, when it states God created, in Genesis 1:1, the heavens and the earth, boom, stamp, we can't argue about that. So even though that he brought a beautiful baby into the world, what he was trying to allude to is that that's a gift from God. And so that's where we stand first on even before we got the logical part of it, that God created everything. He is the author. He is who we are in debt to. We are naturally the borrowers. Not naturally, we are the borrowers. And God is the one who's the lender.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I thank you for sharing that and clarifying that, because I think it's important for people to see that testimony, to see, hey, I've spent my whole life thinking that I'm the lender, and it's like you were speaking on it before, where we, as much as we try to deny God, we essentially want to be Him.
In a nutshell.
We want to be in that position of, I've got it all, I've got all the resources, but it's an illusion.
Yeah.
It's an illusion because it's not yours.
And if you're thinking right now that, nah, that's not true and everything, or you're wrestling with that inside, that's a burden of proof that we're accurate. That's a burden of proof that we see that, we're in debt. We want to be something that we're truly not. Or we're going to strive for the entirety of our life. I mean, to my sin, to my sadness, I used to roll about 10K in my book bag when I went to school. Just because I was a dealer, I really didn't care about life and everything. I got caught, whatever. And I would just steal more to get. But the reality was I would be in a constant loop of trying to think of something that I wanted to be. In reality, God was like, I'm going to wait till you're ready for the truth to be brought to you. And so when you struggle inside and you have that internal struggle like, man, I want to be something I'm not, it's because God ordained and crafted you in such a beautiful way that the debt that we have to Him is, I don't want to say monstrous, but a magnitude that we have to wrestle with to know the concept of what Christ and God is. But
no, you're absolutely right, and it is something that we have to wrestle with, and I love that little plug that it is the burden of proof, because you can't deny the fact that I want this, I have this sense of ownership. And please be clear, just understand that when we're talking about this, if you own a house or own a car, we ain't saying you technically don't own it. What we're saying is, in the ultimate grand scheme of things, that is, because when you die, where's it going? It's going to who? The next person. So is it truly ownership? I say ownership is not temporal, it's eternal.
correct.
If I own something, I always have it. And it's like, we don't stop and think about that, where we are simply stewards. Even my child, who I brought into this world, is technically not mine.
Mm-hmm.
She is the Lord's, and He has blessed me. So I am in stewardship of her. Not even just my daughter, but even my wife. That is God's daughter that I have been entrusted to, that when I stand before Him, I will have to give an account on how I